guys, and welcome to Odds Premier League 7th match day. And we have here Tom Rennie. Tom, do you like our new graphics?
This is very professional. We've really upped the game since the last time I was here. I'm loving all this, but the trouble is, with great graphics comes great responsibility. So we've got to do a good job now because people are expecting much more from us.
Yeah, but you always do a great job, so I don't think this is going to be a problem.
Yeah, I wasn't talking about me, to be honest, but that's fine.
Okay, I will try to keep it also with the level of our guest. Guys, remember also ask any question to Tom Rennie. I will do it actually in a second. Leave a comment below as well in the comment section. And don't forget to click on the like if you enjoy our videos. Subscribe, of course, and click on the bell to get notifications. What is your favorite karaoke song is my question to Tom Rennie at this point of the show.
Well, I don't get invited to karaoke all Saturday night like you, but when I do get invited, I like to do Band on the Run by Wings. How about you?
Okay, and Latin music is my favorite one, Despacito, I have to say. It's a good one.
Will you do some now? Will you do some during this video for us?
No, I don't want the rain to come to us. So let's go Despacito, Despacito, which means slow, slow with our first game. Very good one. Man United, Everton. Man United, they always start in a slow motion. The games conceding, sometimes they can come back and they can win games in the last minute as they did against Villarreal with De Gea being a great player. Again, but in the Premier League, they lost to Aston Villa. They also lost to West Ham in the League Cup. So no good times, I guess, for Man United. And now they host Everton. They beat Norwich. Everton, they are 5th in the standings. So be careful with this game, I would say, Tom, or not.
I think you make some great points there. Firstly, it is worth saying that David De Gea has been fantastic recently. You know, people like us, journalists and fans as well, have given him a lot of stick over recent years, and it has been earned. He's been nowhere near the quality that he was 3 years ago in the ensuing 3 years. But the last month or so, he's been fantastic, and he made some brilliant saves in the game in the Champions League in midweek. Of course, he made that penalty save from Mark Noble as well in the league game against West Ham. So it's worth noting he has played so well. But you make another great point in that this Solskjaer side doesn't play for the first 25 minutes of any game. They didn't do it last season. It became the narrative of last season that you could pretty much always bet on Man U to concede and win away from home because it took them 30 minutes to warm up to every game of football. And that seems to be continuing. They struggled against Villa last week. They laboured for the entire 90 minutes, and it took until the very last minute that innocuous-looking handball from Courtney Hawes, which became the penalty, which was given, which was then missed. It would have salvaged something from a game they didn't deserve anything from. So, a lot of question marks still about Manchester United. A lot of question marks about them. Injury-wise, looks like Maguire's missing this weekend. Probably Shaw as well. That means that they'll have that kind of makeshift defence that they had in midweek, which didn't do particularly well in the Champions League. So, hard to assess Man United at this time. I think as ever, we don't know what the best team is for Manchester United. Is he going to find a way to get Cavani and Ronaldo in the same team? Can you play Cavani and Ronaldo in the same team in 2021? What's happening with Jadon Sancho? Was that a worthwhile purchase? Where are you playing Mason Greenwood and how are you developing him? All sorts of issues there. And also in midfield, 1 week it's Fred, 1 week it's McTominay, 1 week it's Pogba, then it's Matic. What is the central midfield for Manchester United? I have no idea what it is. As for Everton, definitely started better than we thought they would. Absolutely. And that's testament to Rafa Benitez getting his organizational ideas over to this team very, very quickly. And if you add to the fact that Richarlison's missing, Coleman is missing, Calvert-Lewin is missing, Andre Gomez is missing, Jordan Pickford's a big doubt for this weekend. You know, the injury list suggests Man United win. The bookies think, as you can see here, that Man United are big favourites. But they've had these injury issues for a while now. And we can disparage Damari Gray. We can disparage Andros Townsend and these guys. If you look at the form players in the Premier League over the opening weeks of this season, the Everton front three are in there. Certainly two of them in Gray and Townsend. They have been fantastic. At the moment, Everton are a good, well-organised team, shorn of their stars. United are a team full of stars, perhaps shorn of great organisation. I can see why Man United are favourites. I'd still probably back Manchester United, but I'd certainly be looking at the both goals market. I'd be looking at the over 2.5, Manchester United win market. And certainly, I'd be looking at late goals market. If you're looking for winners in the last 10, winners in the last 5, that could make some money this weekend.
Well, probably it's because Benitez is way better coach than Solskjaer, no? That's why Everton is way more organized. Harry is telling us if United are the luckiest team in the league. Probably they are in the last games. For sure, for instance, when David De Gea also saved that penalty against West Ham, or when they beat Villarreal in the very last minute, Ronaldo to score in the last minute, another market that you can take a look, because this is happening very often. Then Burnley, Norwich, the two worst teams in this Premier League. Norwich 0 points. They lost 2-0 against Everton. No surprise about that. Only 2 goals scored in this Premier League. Burnley 2 points only. The bookmakers give Burnley put Burnley really favorites. Odds are around 2.0 for them to win. This is a 6-pointer, especially for Burnley, no? Because we know that Norwich, they are going down, but Burnley, they can still save themselves.
Yeah, every drop point against Norwich is exactly that, drop points. Everyone must beat Norwich this season. If you don't, then you're going to be kicking yourself come the end of this season, because these are 3 points against this team. Let's start with Burnley, because I was very impressed by them last week against Leicester City. Very impressed. Leicester have got their issues. We'll talk about them later, but I love the look of Maxwell Cornet. I think he looks really, really good. The trouble is, he's probably missing this weekend, right? So Burnley have finally got somebody that you would pay your actual money to watch play football, and he plays 45 minutes against Leicester. He's staggeringly good, and he's injured. It's an injury to his thigh, I'm told, so he could be missing a few weeks. That puts this one back in the fire, because who's going to score goals for Burnley? Who's going to create for Burnley? They'll get physical against Norwich. And, what do we say about Norwich? I thought they were okay against Everton last week. They were okay. They were perfectly acceptable. There's a great quote that I think it was Bill Shankly used to say about West Ham in the 60s and 70s. And he would say, good club, family club, 3 points. It was 2 points at the time. But that's what he would say. I love them. I love going there. They're good people. Looking forward to the wins. And that's the thing with Norwich. Lovely club, good people, 3 points. So I would suggest every week this season, bet against Norwich. You'll make a lot of money this season doing that. This is maybe one of the only ones that might be in the balance, but still, I'd be taking Burnley to win. Still, I'd take Burnley to win without conceding. I'd be looking at a 2-0 scoreline, a 1-0 scoreline. Burnley win without conceding. That's the tip.
Okay, then Chelsea, Southampton back quick for Tuchel's men. They lost against Man City. They lost against Juventus. No goals scored for them. And since Liverpool and Man City, they are playing together, this is a must win for Chelsea. Also, especially because they are playing against Southampton. No victories for them yet this season. 4 points, but be careful. Of course, they were able to draw against the two teams of Manchester, although I guess the Blues have to bounce back in this game.
Yeah, I mean, the odds have even grown since this morning. It was around 10 this morning. As you can see, it's around 11.2 now. I imagine that'll get longer and longer and longer as the days go on before kickoff in this game. Chelsea are going to win. Chelsea are going to win this football match. Guaranteed. It's going to happen. Why? Because they'll need to bounce back from the disappointment of the last week. Chelsea, they still have an embarrassingly good squad. And I am told Mason Mount should return for this game. And Mason Mount, he is the most crucial player at Chelsea right now. He is the most crucial element because he provides that linkway between the midfield, which, as we saw against Man City, can look a bit stoic without him, look a bit stodgy, and on the offense, which without him, again, who's throwing those balls through? Maybe Pulisic could have done it, but he's perennially injured, and no one else is doing that right now. So we hear Mount could be back. That's very important. As for Southampton, great point at Man City. We've got to say that. It was a great point. They defended really well. They didn't defend well against Wolves last week, who didn't like scoring for ages, but then Salisu and Bednarek, just like Raul Jimenez, walk through them. I've got big concerns about Southampton. I think they're going to be in the bottom 5 this season, potentially the bottom 3. Defensively weak, despite the organizational acumen of their manager, the individual players aren't particularly good. And offensively, Che Adams and Stuart Armstrong, we've spoken about them before. Shane Long is the other striker. There's not 10 Premier League goals per individual in that group. They look like championship players that are not on form in the Premier League. And so Chelsea win this. Chelsea win this without conceding. This is your Asian handicap for this weekend, and a weekend of pretty tight fixtures. I'd be looking at maybe -2 for Chelsea. Certainly to win to nil. Chelsea comfortable.
Chelsea to win 2-0, also human being, is asking us 2.3 odds for that one. And Harry, of course, is not happy with his Chelsea one shot on target in 180 minutes against big teams. But Harry, don't worry, things can get better, as you saw last season with your Chelsea. Then Leeds, Watford. Can things get better for Leeds is my question to Tom, because right now they are in the relegation zone. They might have trouble this season to stay in the Premier League. They lost 1-2 against West Ham in the last game. No victories for them yet in Elland Road with a lot of supporters, of course. And Watford drew against Newcastle, picking points here and there against Norwich and Aston Villa. They won, so they are more or less in the middle of the table with 7 points. This is very important game, I guess, for Bielsa.
Yeah, absolutely. A very important game and a real tough game to call. A lot closer, I think, than the odds suggest right now. As you see, around 2-1 for Leeds, around 5 for Watford. I think the draw looks interesting here. Why? Because Leeds were very good last week against West Ham. Certainly the first 30 minutes, I thought they were the best team, and they could have won it by 2 or 3 goals in that first half. But as the game went on, they faded and faded and faded. And West Ham were like, let's get Vlasic on. And as much as I have my issues with the likes of Yarmolenko, they can bring people like him on and people that have got experience, people that can add something to a team in the last 10 minutes of a match. Whereas Leeds turn around and the cupboard is bare. It's a thin squad. We knew it was a thin squad, but now without Strauch, Llorente, Bamford's out for this one as well, Robin Koch, Luke Ayling. You know, it's a long list of players that are doubts for Leeds, and there is not a depth of squad. They've got a good 15, which now goes down to 9, and you're playing like, you know, God bless Jamie Shackleton, but he's certainly not a Premier League right back, and that's where he ends up last week, and that costs Leeds the game. So I had big issues here with Leeds. For Watford, they should have lost 7-1 last week against Newcastle. That's not overkill or exaggeration. Newcastle had chance after chance after chance after chance. There's a famous bit of commentary doing the rounds, which you can Google for yourself this afternoon, of a local commentator in Newcastle, John Anderson. He played for the club. And when that chance goes through to Murphy and he goes through on goal and he screams, just put it in the net! Just put it in the net! Because they should have won by like 7, Newcastle. Watford were poor, but they got something. Why? What am I always saying to you? They've got a quality player. They've got a goal scorer. His name is Ismail Assar, and he scored the header last week. He'll score 15 goals. That might get them up to this game. That might get Watford something in this one as well. I think that Leeds will try and burst for 20 minutes. They've got to score 2 in the opening 20. If they don't, things will even out. This, to me, looks like a draw with those teams scoring. 1-1 will be the tip. Don't go exact scores unless you're really brave, but draw, both teams score, looks likely.
Leeds, Watford, David is telling us both teams to score, and Peace is telling us Watford double chance. Yes, because there are good odds for the away team, as Tom told us, because this is a balanced game. When we have good odds for one team, it's very good to go into the double chance for the underdog. Then Wolverhampton, Newcastle, another 2 teams that they can be in trouble this season. They will be for sure in the bottom half of the table. Wolves, they got the second victory of the season because Raúl Jiménez scored again back in the score sheet against Southampton. And Newcastle, you just mentioned that they drew against Watford. Another tough one to call, I guess, as well, Tom.
This is tough this week. This whole week is tough. I was even trying to do the accumulator, which we're going to do later, was quite difficult because there's no real, even though some of the odds suggest there are big favourites here. Wolves look like big favourites if you look at the odds. I'm not seeing that. I don't see that at all. In the last game, Leeds big favourites. I'm not seeing that. I'm not seeing that at all. Look, last week, Wolverhampton Wanderers and Southampton were playing out the worst game of football of the season. It was so poor. It was so poor. Wolves do not look effective creatively. Southampton are a nothing team at this point, and it was going to 0-0. We just mentioned Ismail Assar for Watford. We've got to mention Raúl Jiménez for Wolves because everyone was delighted to see him score that goal. If he can get back to anywhere near the player he was, he'll score 10, 12 goals, and Wolves will stay up. And it was a brilliant finish despite the woeful Phil Jones-esque defending from Salisu and Bednarek. But I still have issues with Wolverhampton Wanderers. I don't feel like they have the players to pull off the football that Bruno Lage seems to want to play. He wants to do this kind of total football style where they're pressing, which wasn't the Wolves way under Nuno, but he also wants to keep possession, but he also wants to hit them on the counter. It's like all styles simultaneously. And I think that's where we get the confusion with Wolves in the opening weeks of the season. For Newcastle, staggering they didn't win last week. Utterly staggering. Chance after chance after chance. You know why they didn't win? Because Callum Wilson's injured. If Callum Wilson was playing last week, they would have won comfortably. Who else can find the back of the net for this team? It seems nobody. Still no Callum Wilson in this game, which is a massive, massive blow, an ongoing blow. But we knew that was going to be the case with Callum Wilson. It's why he plays for Newcastle and not someone further up the ladder. Doubts about Dubravka. I think he's missing still. So that'll mean it'll be Woodman or Darlow, low-quality goalkeepers. And look, I just don't know about this game. I really don't. If I was going to put my money on it, I would suggest draw is my most favoured outcome. I'd be looking at 0-0. I would certainly be looking at low scoring in this game, mainly because they are so, and I love this word, it's a commentator word, profligate in front of goal, which means they couldn't hit a cow's backside with a banjo.
Then low scoring game to miss in this weekend. Put your money, but probably don't watch it because you will get very bored.
Yeah.
And it's siesta time. Also, it's 4 p.m. in the UK, so it's time to get a nap at that time. Then later on, last game on Saturday, Brighton, Arsenal. This is way more interesting, and also the odds are way higher. Third victory in a row for Arsenal. They won the North London Derby against Tottenham. Of course, only one goal conceded in these 3 games that they won. This is very positive for Arteta's men, but this is a tough game against Brighton, a team that is playing very good this season. They drew in the last minute against Crystal Palace before they beat Leicester and Brentford. Tough one, this one, Tom, for Arsenal also to see the real level of these Gunners.
Yeah, this is so tough. This whole week is so tough. I mean, I watched both their games last week. I was at the North London Derby. I worked on the Palace game for Brighton. Let's talk Brighton first. It was probably their worst performance of the season, actually. They couldn't get their passing together. They didn't have Bissouma in midfield, and that was a massive blow to them. He's a big doubt for this weekend as well. His replacement is Mwepu, and he's missing probably this weekend as well, which means it'll be Lallana in midfield again. And I love Adam Lallana, but 90 minutes from him is not going to be something you're going to get on a regular basis. He did it a couple of days ago. Can he do it again? And who else in that midfield provides the power in midfield to break up the opposition and carry them forward? Bissouma is so crucial. And that makes this interesting, because if Bissouma is back, I actually would make Brighton favourites to win. And that's why the teams are always so interesting. And he's got about a 50% chance, we are told, at the moment with the knee injury that he's got. But they're a good team, Brighton. They can score goals. Neil Maupay, that finish. The little lob with 3 seconds on the clock over Guaito on Monday. Phenomenal. For me, one of the goals of the season, because it had composure as well as technique, and it meant so much to the teams at that point. That was fantastic. I like the look of Cucurella, the wing back on the side. I think he looks really, really good. I think that they've wanted Lamptey back for a while, and Lamptey's not coming back as yet, and so he's given them a proper wing back. I like the fact he likes to kick people as well, because that's what defenders should do. So Brighton, good defensively. If Bissouma comes back in, the midfield looks strong, and they can score goals. For Arsenal, tough to assess them. As I say, I was at the North London Derby last week, and Tottenham Hotspur were so catastrophically, hideously appalling that I don't know if Arsenal were good to beat them, because they just evaporated in midfield, Tottenham, right? So, yes, there were some good moments for Arsenal. They are good goals, but they went from their goalkeeper to scoring a goal, and there wasn't a challenge. There was no midfield. What was happening? Who was playing where? I will say that Arsenal took their opportunities well. They scored good goals, and last week that was their strongest 11, I think. That was the best team they can put out with the squad they have. But Granit Xhaka is now missing, which some will say, no great loss, but there's no great quality to replace him either. This may well be an avoid this weekend if you are looking at betting on any games, because I think all outcomes are probable and likely, as you can see from the odds. If I was going to pick it either way, I would shade for Arsenal. I would shade for Arsenal because there was a feeling last week, despite the toughness of assessing their performance, that something is back, something is clicked, something is working. I'd be looking at Arsenal to win. and Arsenal to win without conceding in a low-scoring game. That would be Arsenal 1.5.
Wow, you are optimistic about the Gunners. David is going for Brighton. Actually, Brighton to bully the Gunners, both teams to score. Lille is telling us Brighton Asian handicap 0. Odds are 2.17 for that human. So you get your money back if there is a draw. So as you can see, this is a tough one to call, and everyone has their own opinion about this game. On Sunday, we have Crystal Palace, Leicester City, another tough one to call. Leicester City really favorites here, but they are not showing it on the pitch so far in this season. And Selhurst Park is not an easy ground right now. 1 victory for them against Spurs, 2 draws, so no defeats when Crystal Palace are playing at home. And Leicester, remember that they are playing against Legia Warsaw, long trip in the Europa League on Thursday. And they are not winning, only 1 point in the last 3 games. The only good news for them is that Jamie Vardy is scoring. But that's...
Yeah, there's not a great deal of good news for Leicester at this point. They've been playing poorly. They're not really creating, and I'm not quite sure what they're aiming to do in matches at the moment. There's times where they seem to be sitting off it. There's times where they're pressing. There's times where they're going for the jugular. There's times where you're just sort of confused as to what the plan is. And that's, I think there's a team that's in need of a bit of regeneration. It needs 1 or 2 elements, like when they brought in James Maddison and Yuri Tielemans to update what they do. You couple that with the defensive issues they have had this season. Fofana still missing, James Justin is out, and Johnny Evans a big doubt, plus the diabolically bad form of Chalio Soyuncu, and you put all that together and you get a bunch of soft goals conceded. For Crystal Palace, I didn't think they played great against Brighton, to be honest. They probably shaded a poor game on Monday night. I'm concerned about Wilfried Zaha, because if Zaha's playing well, Palace can create, Palace can win. And though he scored the penalty, he just didn't seem to want to take Brighton on. And Wilfried Zaha always takes them on. Now, is that something that Patrick Vieira and the coaching team there have told him to do? Or is he carrying a little injury that we don't know about at this point? I will say that Odspedia Eduardo from the start looked completely anonymous. I expect Benteke to come back in for this game, because at least he has an impact on the game. That impact might be missing the goal from 2 yards, but at least you notice he's playing, as opposed to Eduardo, who I didn't. This is another tough one. I wouldn't back Leicester at this moment in time. At this moment in time, I wouldn't back them because of how inconsistent they have been. Crystal Palace, I think, will need to score 2 goals to win this game, and I wouldn't back them to score 2 goals in this game. And so, straight to the fence, draw for me. Draw.
Draw, good one, 3.51. Next game, we have Tottenham, Aston Villa, and wow, I really fancy the odds for the other away team. 3.82 for Aston Villa to win at the north of London. You said before how Spurs, they were really bad, awful in the North London derby after a good start of the season. 3 consecutive defeats with 9 goals conceded. What is that for a team coached by Nuno Espiritu Santo? And Aston Villa, despite the losses in the summer transfer market, to be honest, they are doing a great season so far. They are 10 points. They were able to beat the Man United away. How do you see this game? Because, again, Aston Villa also able to beat Everton this season 3-0. This is a dangerous team.
I agree. Starting with Spurs, to follow up from what I said earlier, they were so awful in the game last week. The midfield made no sense. The tactics made no sense. It called out for 2 defensive midfielders, and he went with Tengai and Ndombele, who I think is probably the worst player in the Premier League. I think he's total trash. And Ndombele, he has no role in a professional football team in England at this time. The ball hits him and he loses it, and he's like, well, never mind, move on. He carries the ball forward, but normally by accident. He makes Moussa Sissoko, who he replaced, basically, seem like a world beater. No time for him at all. And Dele Alli, I think, looks like a little boy lost again last week. And I hope to see Ellie back to what he used to be. But what he is at this point in time, I do not know. The Harry Kane question comes into it as well, because when they beat Man City, it was Moura, it was Bergwijn, and it was Son. That 3 worked really well. Bergwijn's out, so they can't do it this weekend. But what do you do with a problem like Harry Kane? I don't know. You throw in the game in Europe on Thursday. You throw in the disappointment of all that. You throw in the injuries they've got, Sessegnon and Bergwijn, but also people like Lucas Moura. What is his role in this team? I mean, there's so many questions. I actually feel like I'm going to have a brain melt thinking about Tottenham Hotspur at the moment because I'm not sure how it's gone so badly this quickly. They look like a team who have been under Nuno for like 5 years and everyone's had enough of him. He seems to have just imported what was happening at Wolves to this team, which is quite the achievement considering he's only been there for like 2 months. So, look, I don't know how Tottenham are going to play. They must improve. I think Skip's got to come in, and I think they've got to go solid in midfield and not get embarrassed by Villa, because if you are slightly off it against Aston Villa, they will beat you, as they showed against Manchester United last week. They were brilliant when I saw them against Chelsea quite recently. Away from home, they look stronger than at home. From what I've seen so far. Even the Watford loss on the opening day, they came on very strong and could have got a draw in the end, despite how awful they were in the first half an hour of that match. Defensively, very, very good. I think Ezri Konsa should be back, but Courtney Hawes may well keep his place after playing last week. Tyrone Mings, fantastic. Cash and Target, great fullbacks. Midfield, I think Douglas Luiz is brilliant. I love John McGinn, and they have two strikers in Watkins and Ings who can always score goals. So, looking at this game, Tottenham need something. Villa are a better team, and I think Villa will win. I think Aston Villa will go to Tottenham Hotspur and win because they have a better defence and they have goal-scoring threat, massive confidence from last week, and a week's rest as opposed to Spurs. Everything points here to an Aston Villa victory, and I actually think they can win without conceding. Absolutely take a double chance on this for Villa because I fancy Villa to get something from this game all the way through. Double chance Villa, take it. But if you're following me, 2-0, Aston Villa, or Villa win by over 1.5. Either way, they win.
Double chance for Aston Villa is 1.79. Also, Human is telling us Asian handicap 0 for Aston Villa. So you have higher odds around 2.5 for this. If there is a draw, you get your money back. Harry is betting on the draw. For sure, this is a good game to bet for the underdog. For Aston Villa, next game we stay in London, West Ham, Brentford, and here the odds are very generous, I think, for West Ham, very low. I mean 1.86, because Brentford, they are showing already this season that this is a very good football team. They entertain us with that draw. Against Liverpool, only one defeat this season, but it's true also, Tom, that West Ham, they are pretty good, very good this season. They are winning in every single competition. They beat Leeds. Mikel Antonio scored his 5th goal of the season in the Premier League. Remember that they are playing Europa League, but probably they will shuffle all the players. So you also see this favorite, West Ham, or be careful with Brentford.
I think West Ham are favourites. I think West Ham are a very good team. I think they're much like I was talking about with the other teams I've liked this season, the likes of Brighton and Villa. They're defensively competent and offensively effective. And you put that together and you will be in the top half of the table. I expect lots of changes for the game on Thursday in the Europa League, maybe 7 or 8 changes, though I expect Declan Rice to play and a few of the real senior players, maybe even Antonio as well, considering winning the Europa League group is such an advantage this year. With that jump straight through to the round of 16 as opposed to a Champions League team playoff. So it is very important for West Ham, and they want to win the Europa League as well. I think that's absolutely clear from the club. They want to at least get to the knockout stages and have a real good go at it. So it does open the door for Brentford this weekend, who I thought were, that game against Liverpool last week. There's think pieces on it, and people are analysing the game and, formations and all that sort of stuff. It's the type of game you don't want to analyse because, it was so ephemeral. Reaching out and trying to touch that game would ruin it because it was such a beautiful game of football. And that's because Brentford have a brilliant mentality right now. Everything to do with Brentford is sails with wind behind them. Everyone's putting in the right direction. Everyone's in the right frame of mind. And they believe they can get something from every game. You couple that with the ability of Ivan Toney and Mbeumo and Dalgard in midfield, I think is fantastic, and 2 or 3 others. They are a good team. They're a good team with good players, but you add that to the mentality and they are very, very dangerous. I'm surprised how far out they are at 5s, and I'm surprised West Ham are under 2 at this point in time. That almost tempts me to take Brentford. That almost tempts me because this is the kind of game that West Ham historically have lost. But this West Ham seem like a team who know how to navigate this sort of game. So despite liking the odds on Brentford and despite liking Brentford, I would still take West Ham, and I would take West Ham to win 2-1, both teams to score. But I think it'd be entertaining.
Okay, double chance for Brentford, by the way, is 2.10, in case someone also thinks that there might be a surprise at the London Stadium. And the game of the games, Liverpool, Man City. After this game, all the big three, that in my opinion, the ones that are challenging for the title, will play already between each other in the Premier League. They are coming from completely different moods, because Liverpool, I don't know if they were brilliant, to be honest, against Porto. Porto defense was absolutely bad. The goalkeeper was mental, and they were just hitting each other in the face, because they were not a Champions League team for sure. But they won in a fashion, actually. Of course, 5-1 away at the Dragao. It's never easy. And Man City, we all thought that they were going to win at the Parc des Princes, but this is the Champions League, and Man City or Pep Guardiola struggle in that. But in Premier League, we saw Liverpool drawing against Chelsea at home. We saw Man City winning at Stamford Bridge. And here, Man City, they are favorites. Probably, well, you tell me. Are they favorites, actually?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know about that. I really don't know. I think Liverpool have been fantastic at the start of this season. Even last week, when they weren't quite at their best, they still look so threatening going forward. I think that there are issues still defensively with Liverpool. Van Dijk doesn't quite look back to his best. And frankly, I think Joel Matip has been their best defender so far this season. Doubts about Alexander-Arnold this weekend. And that's a big concern as well, because there's no real quality coming in to replace him. And Thiago missing, Harvey Elliott missing, means that there isn't a great deal of depth to that midfield. And of course, that Wijnaldum, who played almost every game last season, has gone to Paris Saint-Germain. As for Manchester City, despite a couple of injuries, Gundogan missing, Zinchenko missing, the squad remains an embarrassment of riches. But I tell you what, I mean, you watched the game against Paris Saint-Germain, as many of our viewers did. They never looked like scoring. They never looked like scoring against the side who defended stoically and brilliantly, had a really strong defensive midfield, and a dangerous trio on the break. What have Liverpool got? Good defense, good defensive midfielder, and a dangerous trio who can attack on the break. I can see this being very similar to the Paris Saint-Germain game. Very, very similar. I think Liverpool will low block because they can go into that with the players they've got. Man City are not capable of doing that the other way around. They never try to do that. I think Liverpool are a bit more adaptable. I think Liverpool will look to keep Man City out. And on the break right now, Mo Salah, Diogo Jota, and Sadio Mane are all in red-hot form. If I were to pick a winner here, I fancy Liverpool. You add the Anfield factor into that. You add all the drama there'll be because of the death of Roger Hunt this week. Liverpool will do that fantastically well. One of their greats has passed away. There'll be a great atmosphere there. That, I think, could get them over the line. And I actually think Liverpool will win this with a goal in each half. I'd quite fancy them to win both halves, which would be an interesting bet for this one. Liverpool win both halves. Liverpool win by 2-0. Liverpool win without scoring. These are the bets that I like for this game.
There are so many ideas, actually, to bet in this game. You fancy Liverpool, someone... David, for instance, Liverpool, Man City draw and over 2.5 goals, under 2.5 goals for Lille. This pays 2.2. Actually, the bookies expect goals in this game, more than 2.5. First half draw for humans. So a lot of ideas. As we always say, if you think that the teams are pretty much equal and the odds here for Liverpool are higher, it's a good idea to back Liverpool, especially, as you said, Tom, playing at home at Anfield. Anfield factor is always very important. Great. This is a very tough week. As you said before, we have a lot of problems with the underdogs that they can surprise us, and a lot of games that are very balanced. But you said before that you have an ACCA for us.
Yes.
That you put together some winners.
I do. I have picked 4 winners. I'm not wildly confident, but I do think that this is what I'll be going for this weekend. Chelsea are going to win. They are my big favourites this weekend. Chelsea are going to win their game against Southampton. I've gone with Burnley to win over Norwich because I'm backing Norwich to lose every single week this season. That's going to make your money back across the campaign. West Ham, I think, will shade it against Brentford. A little bit dicey, that one, but I like the look of West Ham this season. Depends on how many players play in midweek and then the weekend. And then Leicester to win against Crystal Palace, because I think you've got to get an away team in there to make some value in your ACCAs. Otherwise, they just ain't worthwhile. They're not worthwhile without an away team. And you look at away team wins this weekend. I thought Villa, but I've gone Leicester. That's my ACCA.
Thank you, Tom. As always, very funny, very entertaining. I learn a lot as well listening to you. Everything that I can tell you is very positive. So I hope to see you very soon. Let's enjoy the Premier League. Also, thanks everyone for following the Premier League with us. Still leave a comment in the video. Tell us your predictions for this tough weekend. And don't forget to click on the like and subscribe to our channel. Of course, Tom, see you and keep singing in the karaoke.
See you next time.